A Tree Grows in Springfield is the 6th episode of the 24th season of The Simpsons, directed by Timothy Bailey. And I didn't mind it, I actually quite enjoyed it, but it felt quick, but not in a way where a lot was going on so it felt like time passed. It just felt really underdeveloped, and then something happened, because it was about to end, and I was thinking, this was brief, and then something happens, and it kind of reinforced my belief that they didn't really know how to fully develop this one. But I'll talk about that with a spoiler warning because it's something that happens at the end. But for now, I'll just briefly discuss what happens, or the main narrative. And Homer is down on his luck, things aren't going his way, he's given up hope, and then he wins a MyPad, which of course is an iPad, and there's this fabulous description I absolutely love, and it's referred to as, and I quote, a giant expensive smartphone that can't call anyone, which is true. It's a giant version of a phone that doesn't have a phone function. And Homer is addicted to this, and I have to say it was so relatable. It reminded me of the first time I got an iPhone. I actually have been by choice an Android user for maybe 10 years now, but I did get an iPhone in I think 2010. And I remember it was my first proper smartphone, and I just remember downloading all of the apps and just going crazy with all of these games and things, and that's exactly what Homer does. And it was so relatable, and actually this episode has probably aired roughly around that time, maybe slightly later. And I feel like this would have been very relatable for a lot of people at this time. I just found it so delightful to see all of these apps. It was so relatable and so entertaining, and everything was going really well for Homer. And then it wasn't. Something happened to the iPad, and he's distraught. But then he gets a message of hope, and the message of hope is delivered in a very mysterious way, and the people of Springfield start to think of it as a miracle. But certain characters, namely Kent Brockman, quite interestingly, is determined to find out the truth, because he doesn't believe it's a miracle. Somebody clearly must be delivering this message. And I'll say no more than that. Actually, what I will say is that I loved the flashback to Kent Brockman's childhood. I thought that was very, very sweet. But other than that, I won't go into any more detail about the narrative. But I liked it. I liked the message. I liked the hope. I loved the MyPad. I think it was a perfect blend of fun and, hope. It really is a beautiful message of having hope and thinking that maybe one day your luck will change, or the things that are getting you down will turn around, and maybe it doesn't matter what causes that hope or where we get that hope from. Should it matter? The episode definitely raises that question of, if hope comes from within, does it matter what triggers it? Should it matter what triggers it? And I think it's an interesting discussion to have. My initial response is, no, it shouldn't matter, but also that it actually probably does matter. But either way, I thought it was a really nice episode, and honestly, not much else happens except the ending, which I'll discuss now, and I'll discuss what I meant about it feeling quite brief. So, spoilers, I'm not going to explain what happened with this message of hope, but I will explain what happens in the last kind of 3 or 4 minutes of the episode, because I was quite baffled by it. So, it got to the end of the episode, the end of the narrative, and I thought that seemed quite brief compared to a normal episode. And then it turns out at the end we just have like 3 or 4 minutes of, confusion for me. We have the happy little elf character that Lisa loves, and I believe it was Malibu Stacy in this cartoon world of adverts, just advert after advert after advert, which was, I don't know, it just felt so bizarre and so out of place, and I feel like I'm missing something, and I don't know why it was there, and it just kind of reinforced to me the fact that they maybe didn't have enough to sustain this narrative on its own, so they had to shoehorn some garbage in there. And this is at least the second time in as many seasons that this has happened, where we have a narrative, and then it ends, and then we just have 3 or 4 minutes of goodness knows what, just randomly added onto the end, and I don't like that. I don't think it's very good at all. Maybe, had it been released as a standalone short, it could have been a bit of fun, but I was really enjoying this episode, and I felt like it was too short. I felt like it was cut short, and I was left wanting more. I felt slightly unsatisfied, or maybe not fully fulfilled. And then we just have this random thing on the end, and I don't understand. Maybe there's something I'm missing that isn't clear with this episode. Maybe there was something happening at the time that this was first broadcast. If anybody has any context, please feel free to let me know. But judging the episode without that, it's pretty good. With that on the end, it didn't leave me with the most positive feeling, but ultimately it didn't affect my enjoyment of the main narrative.